Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's episode of Navvai Shift, where we're diving deep into major threats facing financial services and what companies can do to stay ahead. Today, our guest speaker, Elliott Silk, co-founder of My Time Pension and Retire Well Technology, and the head of financial planning of Superbia Group. With extensive experience in financial planning, retirement solutions, investment strategies, Elliott has definitely been a forefront of helping firms navigate profitability challenges in a rapid evolving financial landscape. So Elliot, for those who might not be familiar, can you give us a quick overview of My Time Pension, Retire Well Technology, and also your role at Superbia Group?
Yeah, certainly. Hi, Damari. So, Retirement Well Technology and My Time Pension have been set up as an automated retirement decumulation solution for people that get to retirement with moderate pension pots. So typically between 30,000 and 250,000, whereby they may not want to pay for advice or they struggle to get advice. And that's there to provide them with a sustainable income in retirement. I'm also head of financial planning for Superbia Group. The main two financial planning trading brands are Fernley House and Headley Financial Services. It's a group consisting of around about 80 people, 19 financial advisors, and my responsibility is very much leading the advice function and also dealing with the mergers and acquisitions within the group as well.
Nice, we see. So Elliot, obviously you have a range of experience, and I think it's safe to say in this market, a lot of the financial industry is facing an extremely large amount of pressure when it comes to profitability. So from your perspective, what would you say are the most concerning trends that are putting financial firms at risk today?
So trends at the moment is very much being able to deliver advice on a cost-effective basis to clients, also filling the advice gap. You're always going to have challenges around the regulation and the compliance aspects as well. And it's really looking at how the world is moving forward and what tools we can utilize to assist in what we're doing and really get advice and requirements out there to the needs of the wider general public that perhaps haven't had access to that before.
No, 100%. I definitely do agree with you. I think you did touch on it in terms of regulatory changes, rising operational costs, and also shifting customers' expectation. I feel like they're all definitely major factors, in my opinion, in terms of profitability. So where do you see these being the biggest profitability threat right now?
So the biggest profitability threat or something we can change, I mean, they're two different aspects, really. So there's a large proportion for a regulated firm that is taken up on the cost of compliance, regulation, making sure that we're trading in the right way, and that will range from checking financial promotions, social media stuff that's sent out by employees and their interaction with that as well. And some great tools coming to market that will analyze documents, literature, fund fact sheets, what you're planning to send out to the wider general public, whereby in the past you would have had to have a team of people doing that, looking at it, amending it, drafting it in the first place. We can now leverage tools that are available to us to write the content. Clearly, as the stage we're at the moment is, we need human intervention to look at that and make sure it's correct. But some of those costs that are related to it can be saved, which ultimately then adds to the bottom line of a business or enables that business to spend that money elsewhere in terms of growth deliverables there to the clients.
Without a doubt. And so you did mention, obviously, there's a lot of new tools coming to market. So obviously with a lot of firms, they still have like legacy systems and outdated business models. So my question to you is like, what impact would you say these old systems, like legacy systems, can have on just the productivity of a business and also the profitability?
So a lot of the legacy systems actually relate to the insurance companies and the providers themselves. And where that causes pain and cost to a financial advice firm such as Superbia is that you normally have a team of people that have got to phone up, request information. It takes longer for the insurance providers to turn it around. you may well have clients that are sitting with them on different platforms. So albeit it's the same name of the firm over the door, the interactions with them can be quite different because of the different platforms that they may well be sitting on. So you've got the provider issue there. You've then also got within the advice space, so on the advisor firms, there's two main providers out there in terms of CRMs that I think most people will know who they are. And they probably have round about 80% market share of the advisors that are sitting with them. And they're great pieces of kit. It does tend to be one platform. They're not sitting on too much legacy, but where we're seeing in terms of mergers, acquisitions, if you want to take your business forward, it can be quite expensive, costly, and slow to migrate data from one place to another. So there is new tech on the market. There are new CRMs that aren't at the moment being widely adopted by the advisor community, but they're very much more a modular type approach where you can actually choose the modules that are best going to assist your business. And the important thing for an advice firm is really being in control of as much data as possible. So whether that's reporting on MI, it's enabling you to take the business forward quicker. You can have your own in-house dev team rather than being reliant upon third parties. So doing stuff to your timescale. Sorry, it's quite a long-winded answer. It's an area I'm quite passionate about, but covering it really there from both aspects. But in summary, the legacy bit tends to sit more with providers than it does with advice firms.
Yeah, of course. Talking about advice firms, how are the new market entrants? I know there's a certain fintech startups. Are they reshaping the competitive landscape? And do you think traditional firms are struggling to keep up a little bit?
It's a great question. And probably if you'd asked me that question a couple of years ago, you would have used the word robo-advice as to the challenges and how things are being done differently. I don't think that we've really seen robo-advice materialize as a lot of people predicted, and there was a lot of fear within the advice community that they would be challenges. There's so much that we can automate and we can do, but there's still, when you're talking about significant sums of money, there is still reassurance from a human being that is wanted by consumers. I mean, to give you an example of that, it's Friday night, we're sat at home, we don't want to cook, we'll go on to a certain pizza company's website, we'll order a couple of pizzas, choice of topping for me, choice of topping for the other half, and it will say, press this button, it's £38.90, Elliot, order it. And I will press that button and know that my pizza is going to be there within half an hour. I don't think twice. If we're looking at, I am on my accumulation journey, so I'm working, I've got a few pensions dotted around. I go on to one of the consolidators websites because I want to do it myself. I put in details of my pensions and I've got 20 grand there and I've got 30 grand there and I've got 10 grand there. And if my maths is correct, I get that button there saying, okay, Elliot, press this button to move £60,000. You know what? I don't act quite as quickly as I do when I was ordering my pizza. There's a second take there. Is the company genuine? What am I doing? And you're suddenly frantically searching around the website saying, look, wait, how can I speak to someone? How can I just check this out? Can I just maybe do the £10,000 pension? So if something goes wrong, then at least I haven't lost my £60,000. So, there's still a lot of work to be done. How we as individuals interact with technology. So, what I'm saying, there's still a need for personalized advice. There's the need to be able to speak to someone, to have customer support, and I think that will, the sums of money we're talking about within the pensions and investment industry, I think that will continue for quite some time, until we get to a stage where it is comfortable and people are happy just to do with tech. Again, if it's a case that we're setting up an ISA, we're doing that ourselves and we're putting away £100 or £200 a month, I probably would push that button. but it's when we're talking about the other end of the spectrum that I've just given the example of.
I see. So, Elliot, I think you've mentioned that it's imperative to make sure that technology still has that sort of like human touch and human feel to ensure that, for example, in financial planning, your clients, it's not just dealing with robots. So like, for example, when you're on the phone and the AI or whoever's the automated message is talking to you, and you have to repeat your name like 5-6 times because obviously it can't read it properly. So how would you say, firstly, you can balance that human touch with technology?
So, the sites we're looking at and where we are developing our, sites ourselves, whether that be through, either of the businesses that I'm involved in, is part of that machine learning. When I've been an advisor for many, many years and went through, let's call it the old school training methods. And, one of the early things you get trained upon is almost like the soft skill side is objection handling. You're going in there and you're thinking, actually, what might the client ask me? Why may they not proceed? How do I overcome that? And we need to get to the same place in terms of technology, that if we are designing websites, if we're designing an automated route or an automated path, is within those FAQs, we need to cover off those salient points and build out that way. It's very much, a lot of it should be based upon behavioral stuff, where I gave the example of the pizzas and then the moving pension money. They're both behavioral, but at different ends of the spectrum. It's also around nudge theory. And I think we're going to see an element of this come out through the guidance boundary review. I've put in my 2 pence into that. I've had that in the background where with Retire Well and My Time Pension, we're looking at as an advice firm at Superbia as well. And it's going to be based upon, people like you. It's having personas out there, is that, you're a 40-year-old on your accumulation journey versus you're a 67-year-old that has got a layer of final salary, defined benefit, is going to get the full state pension having worked for the 35 years of paying national insurance. It's like people of you would select these options, or people like you would do this, trying to guide them to the right outcomes, but thinking about those objections that they might have in their mind whilst they're making those decisions and following that route of outcome.
I see. So you talked about the right outcomes, and obviously with AI, I feel like it's just got, at the moment, limitless potential, and it literally changes year by year. So
day by day.
Literally. It's so fast, honestly. So how do you see like AI and automations improving profitability? And I feel like that question has a lot of answers, so you can take it however you want to take it.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's probability or possibility, but it will improve things. It will certainly give us on the advice side, on the advice community, a better understanding of choices that are being made and decisions that are being reached. It will bring in an element there of automation. So it will enable assistance there with decisions, but it will also speed up the processing of those decisions as well. It also provides, a degree of management information and can show us the paths that people follow, so that we've got less of, let's call it, a scattergun approach on what we interpret they might be thinking and might be doing, and actually say, look, we've got meaningful information now here that 80% of people are going down this path, or looking at it and seeing where do people fall out of the journey. There are certain pension providers that deal solely with the accumulation market and the consolidation of pension pots. If I wouldn't say they're rumors, but if hearings are to be proven, you hear that as much or as many billions as they've got under AUM, they've still got that many billions that are in the pipeline still to land. And the reason that they're in the pipeline is somebody, for some reason, has decided at a certain stage not to proceed or to delay their decision-making process. And that's certainly where we can get the learns there from, whether, I suppose the learning of the probability of someone going beyond a certain stage, or the possibility that if we worded stuff slightly differently or took them down a slightly different path, would the outcomes be quite different? And we've got that information to our fingertips, and that information is only going to improve going forward.
Yeah, no, I definitely do agree with that. I believe AI. I think with AI, you're only as good as your data as well. I think once you have the data in place, the results it can give is remarkable. And I still feel like a lot of financial firms are still very hesitant to invest in AI, and especially in AI-driven solutions. So what do you believe might be the misconception which leads to holding back from actually making those investments?
There's always going to be an element of caution when you're acting and delivering in a regulatory environment. And rightly so. There's a lot there that's not yet proven. You can get AI and tech to do a lot of the grunt work, if I can use that phrase, but you still need someone that's checking it over, seeing what's put together, seeing the journey that it's taken on. It's only going to be over a reasonable period of time where we and our regulator has confidence that good client outcomes have been delivered more often than not. We have to have confidence in the system. We can't rely upon it solely, and relying upon it solely that it's going to provide the right outcomes would be wrong. Now, if we started before we did this recording, gentlemen, about explaining how long, 35 years plus that I've spent in financial services, there's a lot of the things in financial services from 30 years ago that haven't changed. We're not known as the industry that evolves really quickly. We're never at the forefront of developments, and part of that is because of the regulatory responsibility. It's how much money, the wealth of the nation that we're in charge of. If you're putting it into context, most people's highest net asset will probably be their house or their property. We are then the people in control of their second biggest asset, which will be their pensions and their investments. So there's always going to be and needs to be an element of cautiousness, a conservative view taken, and making sure we're safeguarding that money for them. There's the reputational risk there, Damari, which I think does slow things down in terms of adoption of new tech.
Agreed. And especially the point where you referenced that financial services is a very rigid industry. I think we can all definitely attest to that. So, yeah. Elliot, what would you say are like the biggest inefficiencies in financial operation today? And I guess how can AI and automations help address them?
So biggest inefficiencies. So you've got some inefficiencies which are system-led. And I think that there are some inefficiencies that are put in there on purpose. Let me explain. So you've got like letters of appointment, letters of authority. That's always been a very manual process. Takes a while for a new advisor to be recognized, etc. And I'm not one to voice too much opinion on that, because I know that others are working on that and looking to correct it and looking to utilize the tech that is now available to us. You've got on the other side where there are inefficiencies which may well be deliberate, where we've got platforms and providers that are trying to retain assets under management. There are quicker ways for us to move that money and to provide better client outcomes, but there'll be certain things that are there ultimately which are designed to protect consumers and make sure that money's going to the right place, but we allow through systems where clients need to go and speak to like the likes of Money Helper or are routed off in certain directions. There's ways there that we can use technology, we can check providers, we can check the receiving scheme to make sure that it isn't going in an overseas rainforest somewhere, that it is legitimately being invested into a recognized DFM or model portfolio service or multi-asset funds or into single funds, where we haven't yet adopted or utilized it because it doesn't make financial sense for everyone to do it, because they're the way we do it at the moment enables people to put blockers on it. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. I know you just touched on the wider the different funds people can actually go into. But is there one overlooked strategy you think financial firms can be using today, but they're not using to protect their margins?
From an investment management point of view?
Yeah, from an investment management point of view, there are certain strategies that you'd say are more overlooked than they should be.
There's nothing that immediately springs to mind that I haven't sort of covered off. No.
Okay, amazing. And also, I also want to ask as well. So I know a lot of companies are over reliant on automation. How do companies avoid pitfalls when they over rely? Because I feel like, as you mentioned before, you definitely need the balance of the human expertise and also automation. But I think some people are looking to rely too heavily on automations.
Yeah, so you need to make sure that the automation is delivering the outcomes that you want as a business and that your consumers want as well. Yeah, not to be too hasty on removing people or think that it's going to be a good way to cost cut, to improve margins and so forth. So you need to make sure that the automation is delivering good client outcomes. It is doing what we expect it to be doing. It is going to give us the ability to attract new clients, but it's also not going to be detrimental to us retaining clients as well. And automation is going to be, advice-led or technology-led advice is going to be right for some people. But we have massive demographics of the clients that we look after. One word that I haven't yet used is vulnerability. There's where we look at ourselves as an aging nation and population. I know that vulnerability isn't just related to age, but there is an impact of us getting older. Advisors need to take that into account. Certainly one of the massive benefits of COVID, which 5 years ago, a lot of us struggled with, is it did force people to adopt technology. I think that we'll agree that we spent quite a lot of the time where we were stuck at home on this medium, speaking across your Teams, your Zoom. Google Meet wasn't quite up there at the time, but you certainly had your Teams and your Zoom. And what that has done is even the more mature clients it has forced them to do online banking. It has encouraged them to speak to family and friends using this method. If I look at it as an advisor or someone, that's running an advice business, it enables us to deliver advice to individuals in a more effective manner by jumping on a Teams or a Zoom or a Google. The other massive plus for us is that it enables us to speak to multiple generations at the same time. Where you've got families distance, you might have the parents up north and the kids have gone to London because the streets are paved of gold and they're working down. Is before it would have been very difficult to meet in person and to get those timings of when everyone's going to be together. Whereas now, you can give a couple of times and days next week and you can get 2, if not 3 generations jumping on this. So where we always think of AI and what has happened over the last couple of years, so we're going back 5 years then until this became common practice, and that in its own has just advanced what we can do and what we can deliver.
Agreed.
I digressed a little bit there from the question, sorry.
On topic for sure, so that's fine.
So Elliot, you did speak about basically COVID essentially being a catalyst for technological change. So I guess if financial firms want to stay profitable over the next, I say 1 to 2 years, obviously COVID was a shift in technology. So what do you think is the most urgent shift companies in the financial services need to make today in order to firstly stay competitive and profitable?
So hopefully nowadays, advisor firms would have segmented their client, looked at the service that they're delivering and seeing actually which clients do need a service, which ones do need annual review meetings. And as we all know, there's been lots in the press over that since Consumer Duty came in the summer of 2023. But it's around being able to deliver the tools, put people on the right track, particularly those that are the young professionals coming through accumulation, setting them straight, having client portals. I think you're going to see more of that from advice firms about client having access at their fingertips to where their money's invested. The other piece that financial advice firms haven't really developed too much is things like open banking. We spend as an advice firm quite a lot of time doing fact finds or updating fact finds. Clearly we have information on what is in their pension, what is in their ISA, how much life assurance they've got, but we'll always have to ask that question as to, what's your property worth, or how much money have you got on deposit? What might you have in your cash ISAs that we don't look after? We can link all that up nowadays. And you speak to people in the advice community and it's like, well, I'm not sure that clients would agree to open banking and me, knowing at my fingertips what their property is worth because we've linked it into Zoopla, knowing what's in their 3 or 4 different bank accounts. But when you take a step back and you actually think, okay, I myself utilize one of the credit agencies. I get an email every month saying that your credit report is ready, Elliot. I go on that and it's got my credit card balances and it's got that I'm on the electoral roll and it's got that I've paid my bills on time. It says there who my utility providers are and so forth. And then I think, I don't remember consenting to that. I don't remember giving them permission. They're dragging that financial information in about me. But you know what? I'm quite happy about that I can go on, I can see that no one's taken any money off me, that I'm paying my bills on time. So when you think around that positioning and how you actually then address that with clients, if you were to put it in that context, I think we would see more clients that say, actually, you're right. That information is in the public domain. And how much easier would that make it for my advice team? How much more efficient would it become? How much more can we help our clients by actually not just at that annual review meeting, but almost on a day-to-day basis, if we can build some tracking in there as to how we can help them and deliver much better financial outcomes for them. So they're the things that I think we'll see. Hopefully COVID doesn't come back. But they're the things that I think that we can see over the next couple of years that help us to evolve as an industry and make sure we're doing good by everyone.
Yeah, 100%. I believe as the industry evolves, it's just more convenience for the end user. And I think that's always going to be the objective. My opinion. Yeah, but I know within Superbia Group, you have been expanding through acquisitions and strategic growth. How does this approach help protect your long-term profitability?
Yeah, so some of this stuff will enable us to onboard client quicker, give them confidence to dealing with us as a group. Some of the online tools there where we have grown over recent years has been through client bank book acquisitions, typically from retiring advisors. When we look at the advice community in the UK, I think it's 90% of advice firms have less than 5 advisors. There's only something like 45 or 46 advice firms in the UK that have got more than 50 advisors. So an element is providing the clients with reassurance, making sure that we're delivering the right investment outcomes for them, that we're looking at cost-effective platforms. What have they got at the moment? And there is plenty of room in this world for the 1 or 2 person advice firms, but they perhaps don't have an investment team behind them and a research team behind them. So certainly here at Superbia, that's where we're speaking to companies that we potentially will acquire is a little bit of a differentiator for us.
I see. I guess, Elliot, you've given us like just a numerous amount of insight. So we do love a story on the Navvai Shift. So I wanted to ask, what's been one of the toughest business decisions you've had to make, and what did you learn from it?
Toughest business decisions. I think tough business decisions normally evolve around people. There's the emotional side to it. There's people's livelihoods, their families, their welfare. really, and that is so important. But throughout my career, there are times where decisions have to be made, and it's not necessarily removing people from the business, but it's telling them perhaps that role isn't right for them, or because of the way the world is moving, is that those, we don't need so many people in those roles now. And we need to consider as a business where we're going to become more efficient. But a lot of those conversations can be removed by continually encouraging our employees to train, to develop, to widen their skills. Just at the start of this pre-recording, listening to you guys, where you've had different roles and you've trained down different paths and things like that, is that's certainly what I encourage with people. But yeah, the toughest decisions that you have to take are those that normally involve people and changing the roles that they're in.
Agreed, but I feel like with the day and age that we're in, obviously upskilling is essential because, as you said, AI changes every day, and that's just one thing that's come now. Who knows, in the future there could be like an AI on steroids, and we have to even get learning quicker and quicker each and every day. So, in terms of obviously your vision for Superbia, where do you see Superbia in the next 6 to 12 months? Do you see technology evolving in that time? I mean, that's without a doubt, but how would you see it evolving? And just where do you want to be in the next 6 to 12 months?
Yeah, so it's ensuring that our tech stack is fit for purpose. We're one of the 20% of advice firms that don't use the two major players there. In terms of our CRM, we have our own dev team, which are based over in Chennai in India. We're currently going through, we call it transformation, but it's not massive transformation. It's just making sure that we've always got our eye on that and just seeing where we can integrate and configure systems better. Where can we deliver or how can we deliver a better client portal and client facing documents accessibility as well? How can we streamline the suitability reports that we're delivering, whether that be for new business advice, whether it be for the review meetings that take place? Does it need to be in a Word format? Does it need to be in a letter format? Can it be almost like PowerPoint and delivered in a better way? We've got to the stage over the last few years as an industry where we think that the longer the suitability report, the better. That doesn't give a client any greater understanding. The most understanding that they're going to get is in that interaction with their advisor, or that interaction with the online site that's given them the FAQs and the information that they need. That suitability report or suitability presentation, the playing back to them, has got to have the important facts. It's got to cover off their objectives and what their outcomes are. But we shouldn't be. I don't know. We shouldn't be paying back to someone saying, okay, Elliot, you are a 50-year-old male, or a male in your 50s. Actually, I've made myself younger there. A male in your 50s. You are married with a couple of kids. You live in a property that is worth this. You plan to retire at age 65. They're the things that I need. Why are you using up 2 pages of a suitability report to tell me stuff that I've already told you? What I want to know from you and why I'm paying for advice is the fact that I've told you my current state, my situation, my age, my dependents. What I want you to tell me in this report is what I should be doing. Should I be putting more money away? Showing me the cash flow. What am I on track for? Will I have a surplus? Will I need to work longer? Can I chuck the kids into private school? Do I need to take them out of private school? And those aspects. And that's what we as at Superbia are looking for, is around, let's give them the meaningful information. Yes, we got the regulator here. We need to replay what the goals, the objectives, the client wants delivered. But let's not just play back the hard facts that they already know.
Absolutely. And you did kind of, obviously, throughout your answer, you obviously touched on a lot of refinement, and you did say you're building up your tech stack. So I guess my question is, how do you go about getting your solutions in front of the right people?
The right people as in clients or potential clients?
Yeah, potential clients, so just your target market in general.
Yeah, so there's elements there that are done through social media. You can do your networking, you can do your professional connections, but I don't think I'm wrong in saying right across the advice industry that the majority of new clients that an advice business will win is referrals from existing clients. You know, so we focus on that, and we should focus on that probably more. And I think that the industry should do. We've just been speaking there about suitability reports or what have you. You know, if you are doing stuff that your existing clients value, if you're giving them an understanding, if you're easy to do business with, then they will refer. You know, rather than go out and spend loads and loads of money on having the snazziest website. Okay, admittedly, you need to do that if you're a D2C business, probably. But if you've got an advice force behind you, yeah, have something nice, but really focus on looking after your existing clients. Your existing clients have a tremendous degree of loyalty to you. They will refer others. But I meet so many businesses and firms, you know, particularly we're speaking to around mergers, acquisitions, and stuff like that, that, yeah, aren't focusing on the people that can grow their business the quickest, which is their existing customers.
And last one is, if you could give one piece of advice to financial leaders hesitant about digital transformation, what would it be?
Do it. Go do it. Yeah. Test the water, dip your toe in, think through it carefully, but yeah, don't be apprehensive. It's not going to take away your job. If anything, it gives more opportunity than it does threats. Go for it.
Amazing. And finally, Elliot, for those who want to learn more about you and your work, where can people find you, Maritime Pension, Retire Wealth Technology, and also Superbia Group?
Easiest place to find me is on LinkedIn. So yeah, Elliott Silk. So Elliot with 2 L's and 2 T's. So the full fat version should be relatively easy to find me. There's not too many Elliott Silks in the world that I've found so far.
Amazing. Now, it's been a very, very insightful conversation. Much appreciated for your time today.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Enjoyed it.